Hello, my name is Fraser Simons, and today I want to do a standalone review for The Lost Century by Larissa Lai. I'm covering up the contact information for Arsenal Pulp because I know that the person listed on here, A, doesn't exist, and B, I don't know if that's information they want to disseminate to the general public anyway. So I'll just show you what the advanced reader copy looks like and then put it down. So that's what it looks like. I don't put an image there of it. So this is a really interesting story. Great Aunt Violet is talking to Ophelia, her granddaughter, and they are talking about 1932 to 1942, I believe, so about a decade. I think it extends a little bit further in the 40s than that, but the meat of it is just there. And she is talking to her daughter about Hong Kong and about two families, sort of in a Romeo and Juliet style, in a feud, yet the one of the siblings of each family is attracted to the other, and you know, this feud, you're not sure what's going to come of it, but it does entangle them even further than they were before. On the one side, the grandfather died from taking specific kind of opium pill that the other family designed, and as recompense had to pay out a certain amount. I think they had to buy him a house in a specific place as recompense, something like that. So ever since then, this feud has only gotten more fiery. But then Emily and Tak Wing meet and are drawn together as star-crossed lovers, basically. Violet is the younger sister, but acts like the older sister to Emily and is like said to be not as beautiful as Emily. She calls herself like a horse face and stuff like that. It's not very nice. But as things go on, it transitions, I think, about halfway in to a story about the occupation of Hong Kong from Japan and the ideologies that are like purported in the books through a series of letters about like W.E.B. Du Bois wondering if Japan is going to form a coalition of like all the Asian countries together to stamp out the West, basically, and make East ideology show more like brotherhood and less like imperialism. If you know how the occupation of Hong Kong went, that does not happen. But the ideologies butting heads has very real world complications for both of the families. And so you're following all of the characters as from this inception, this sort of like powder keg boiling point of this marriage, as well as the feud, as well as like the ideologies of the people. Basically, you can think of it as conservatism and progressivism in the town completely get boiled over, but also subsumed by war. And then it illustrates how the men predominantly in the book, I would say it's fairly feminist from that perspective. Their goals and ends and their agency in the story, as each are realized or tramped out, affect the world and the two families in very, I was going to say graphic, but it's not gratuitous, but it is, because it's intersectional with like military and wartime fiction. It can be very brutal, but not over descriptive in its brutality, if that makes sense. The things that you would expect to happen in the occupation of a city do happen, and the devastation wrought on a macro perspective, even away from the families, because they're hearing of the destruction and the damage that is being inflicted on the country as that scenario plays out. Kind of has word of mouth, I guess, like an ethos that lives on and is peppered throughout all of the characters, and then grows into the older sentiment, and then you find out near the end how kind of like a epilogue, a coda, I guess, of all of the characters and how whatever comes of them. There's like a few paragraphs per character, what all happens to them as far as they know. So it's a family history. You could think of it very much as like intersectional, tangentially with Canada, but predominantly a Hong Kong history through the eyes of these two families specifically, and the damage that the men in control and how their way of thinking in groups and out groups, othering people, affected history, the family lives. It's a cautionary tale, of course, because it's war, and a bunch of other different things. And you have an odd semblance of things because, I mean, more or less it is kind of an unreliable narrator, right? Because it's all from Violet's perspective. So she's not omniscient, she doesn't know everything, even though when she is telling the story, it transitions to a third-person perspective with interjections of first person, with Ophelia and Violet talking at the table. It's all over a meal, and I think it's like 6 or 7 hours in like real time when she's telling the story, and she's telling it on the handover ceremony, the eve of the handover ceremony, I think, when the British rule hand over Hong Kong back to China. So I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was pretty excellent. Personally, I don't like it when there is a conceit of 2 people talking in a campfire type setting and it's not diegetic, like it goes into third-person prose and it isn't her actually speaking. I don't know why writers like to set that up only to digress into some other completely different mode of text. It doesn't really make sense to me, and it's always kind of a little bit jarring. But otherwise, this is Larissa Lai's 8th novel, and it shows it's very competent, it's very interesting. I think she's good at picking out scenes that are thematic, and it's very character driven. You see the same perspectives from many different characters, which is very comprehensive, I guess. Like, it makes her less unreliable than you would expect. And because she's explaining so many important things to Ophelia about history and family and the things that she thinks are meaningful in life, I think that is a good move. I just wish that the conceit around it had been modestly changed so that I didn't have that one gripe, basically. Otherwise, yeah, I thought it was great. I definitely recommend it. I have read 2 other novels by her, Saltfish Girl and The Tiger Flute. Both are absolutely excellent. Those 2, I think I gave 5 stars to, or at least liked more than this one. But those are cyberpunk, biopunk type books, whereas this is straight up realistic, literary, historical fiction. So not particularly my bag, but I picked it up specifically for this author because I really enjoy her. And I think that's it. Any question, comments, queries, whatever, leave them down below, and I'll see you next video.